Where are you running, Billy? Surely you know there's no escape. Why not accept what's coming?
The sing-song voice seemed to come from everywhere, around her and from inside her own head as well, her lungs and leg muscles burning. The orange Pegasus forced her way deeper and deeper into the inky blackness that surrounded her. She had no idea what she was running towards. It surely couldn't be as bad as the thing that was following her now.
Pathetic little blank flank. What young mare at your age doesn't even know her special talent yet?
Tears of embarrassment flowed from her eyes, and her wings forced themselves down uncomfortably to cover the bare patches on her own flanks.
Leave me alone!
Not stopping her desperate run, not even for a moment.
You'll be the sweetest after all. You were the one who cost me everything!
The thing behind her wasn't behind her anymore. Suddenly, it was in front of her. She screamed and skidded to a halt mere inches from the imposing figure. He loomed over her, leering horribly. His black eyes seemed to pierce her very soul as he reached out a single gray hoof.
And then I wake up in a cold sweat.
Scootaloo shuddered as she finished recounting the most recent nightmare to her two closest friends. The once and future Cutie Mark Crusaders were sitting around a table in Sugar Cube Corner and sipping milkshakes. Sweetie Belle took a long drink from a frozen concoction and looked her friend in the eyes.
Do you remember what he looked like?
Scootaloo shook her head.
Not really. All I remember is that he's tall and gray and his eyes, they're black.
Both Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle recoiled at the tone of Apple Bloom's voice. The teenage Earth Pony looked into the depths of her vanilla shake. Scootaloo raised an eyebrow.
How did you know that? Because I've seen him too.
Sweetie Belle caught a small movement in Scootaloo's wings and looked at her with concern.
Scootaloo. What? You're doing it again.
Sweetie Belle mentioned with her eyes towards Scootaloo's wings, now folded back further than usual so they covered her flank.
You know, you don't have to do that around us.
Scootaloo laughed in embarrassment and shifted her wings, revealing her blank flank once again.
Sorry, reflex.
She turned back to Apple Bloom.
What are you talking about, AB?
Apple Bloom finally looked up from her glass, revealing bags under her eyes.
He chases me just like he chases you, but he says other things. Like what? Like he's gonna finish the job he started when he killed my parents.
The silence at the table was palpable. Sweetie Belle was the first to speak.
You don't suppose he's... No!
Scootaloo cut her off.
It couldn't possibly be him. Rainbow Dash Sonic Rainboom straight out of existence. She never said she killed him.
Apple Bloom muttered. Scootaloo looked at her friends incredulously.
She was holding him out in front of her where she was flying fast enough to penetrate the color spectrum. No pony could survive that. No pony knows what's on the other side of the rainbow either.
The idea stopped Scootaloo's next retort dead in her mouth, and she slumped in her chair dejectedly.
Hello, ladies.
Scootaloo's ears perked up the docile tones of her colt friend.
Hey, Pip, what's up?
The splotch-furred colt stepped next to her and placed a gentlemanly kiss on her cheek.
Afternoon, love. Just out with the boys. Hi, princess.
Button Mash offered, rubbing his nuzzle against Sweetie Belle's.
Hi, hero of time.
She returned with a wide-eyed smile.
Those two, honestly.
Rumble shook his head before turning to a young farmer he was dating.
You okay, Apple Bloom? You look a little tired.
Apple Bloom offered him a reassuring smile.
I'm fine, sugar. I just haven't been sleeping well.
The reminder of the nightmares made Scootaloo stall in her romantic break with Pip squeak in mid-nuzzle.
Guys, do you mind if we hook up later? We've got some girl things to talk about.
Pip nodded and gave her a quick peck on the lips.
As the lady wishes.
He motioned to the others.
All right, lads. Let's give the ladies their privacy. Let's go see if we can bum some candy off a twist.
Goodbye kisses and nuzzles were shared, and the trio of young stallions exited the store.
So, do you think it's him? Feather Duster, I mean?
Apple Bloom shrugged.
I never actually saw the guy.
She looked across the table.
Scoots.
Scootaloo had to laugh.
I was a fool when he snatched me up from my home. I don't remember anything.
Sweetie Belle sighed.
If only there was some way for each of us to share each other's dreams.
A thought entered Scootaloo's mind as she felt a small smile across her lips.
Girls, go pack your bag and meet me at the train station in half an hour.
Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle peered at her.
Why? Because we're going to Canterlot.
The three teenagers were led into the sumptuous tower bedroom by a young bat pony guard. She scanned the dim room until she located the flowing mane of her commander.
Majesty, the visitors who requested to see you.
The candle's flickering flames brightened ever so slightly, illuminating the prone form of a very pregnant princess of the night. She smiled at Scootaloo.
It's been too long, Scootaloo. You've grown since we last met.
Scootaloo blushed under the stares of her fellow Crusaders.
What? You know Princess Luna? Personally? And you never told us?
Sweetie Belle questioned in shock.
Must have slipped my mind.
Apple Bloom shook her head in disbelief.
And here I thought we were just coming to get a book or something.
Scootaloo returned her gaze to Luna, or rather, to Luna's bulging stomach.
Congratulations, by the way.
Luna smiled and trailed a hoof across her belly.
Thank you.
Sweetie Belle noticed a grand dollhouse in the corner. The toy was nearly as tall as she was.
That's really pretty. Where'd you get it?
She caught her nonchalant tone and almost bit her tongue.
If your majesty doesn't mind me asking.
Luna waved her off.
A gift from my sister. I keep telling her the foal is a boy, but she insists that he can use it for models and such.
The foal kicked and she grimaced.
The doctors have informed me that I should remain in bed rest for the time. Even my dream walking has taken a back seat to prepare for the little prince's arrival. Funny you should mention that.
Scootaloo proceeded to tell the goddess an abridged version of the past few nights' events. The mysterious old stallion haunting her in Apple Bloom's dreams, and the abject night terrors. Luna listened until she was finished and nodded.
Do you have any idea who the specter might be? We're pretty sure it's an old stallion named Feather Duster. And what, pray tell, would Feather Duster have against you three?
This time, the three of them spoke in turn. They told the princess all about Feather Duster, the bitter old drunk who killed dozens of ponies, all in the name of revenge against Rainbow Dash. Scootaloo finished his story by recounting how Rainbow Dash herself had seemed to end the nightmare by punishing the old stallion through the sonic rainbow. When Scootaloo had finished her part of the tale, Luna nodded in deep thought.
It is possible that Feather Duster Pony was accidentally pushed into the dreamscape by a powerful force such as the rainbow. It's also very possible he gained as much strength as he has recently thanks to my being unable to dreamwalk these past few weeks. So what do we do?
Sweetie Belle felt powerless and ashamed that her two best friends were having to endure such wicked dreams, and she was not.
Yeah, if there isn't anything you can do to help us.
Luna shook her head sadly.
I am sorry, but I'm afraid this problem is something you'll have to conquer on your own.
The three once and future Crusaders bowed their head in defeat.
But even on your own, there may be a way for you to fight.
3 sets of ears perked up, and 3 pairs of eyes looked at her with hope. Luna smiled deviously.
Tell me, Phillies, have you ever heard of lucid dreaming? Apple Bloom, over here, sweetie.
The unicorn looked over as her earth pony friend materialized next to her.
Is that really you, or am I dreaming you?
The thought made her eyes cross.
This is making my head hurt.
The yellow teen stepped over and bit her matter-of-factly on the ear.
Ow!
Sweetie Belle pulled away and rubbed her sore appendage.
Alright, okay, so you're really you. Where's Scootaloo? Right here!
There was a popping sound, and suddenly Scootaloo stood between them.
Have you been there this whole time?
Apple Bloom astonished her. Scootaloo giggled and nodded.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't done anything like this in a long time. When I was a filly, I would dream up Rainbow Dash and go on all sorts of adventures with her. I figured I lost the ability when I grew up. Well, according to the princess, you didn't. And since you've had more experience doing this than the quick lesson she gave us about lucid dreaming thing, you gotta take quick charge, got it?
Scootaloo nodded and looked ahead.
So, whose dream are we in?
Sweetie Belle rolled her eyes.
As though if we even need to ask.
They were standing on a hill overlooking a forest that seemed to go on forever. The sun blazed high in the sky and the birds sang from the branches down below. Scootaloo breathed in deep and was assaulted by a fragrance of a particular fruit. She looked at Apple Bloom with a deadpan look in her eyes.
Really? An apple orchard? You dream about apple orchards?
Apple Bloom laughed.
You try and live in an apple farm for 16 years and not dream about apples all the time.
The three shared a quick nervous laugh and headed down the hill. In Canterlot, Princess Luna watched the three slumbering ponies on the cushions next to her bed. The sleep charm hidden in her lesson on lucid dreaming had worked perfectly, and if everything was still going to plan, then the three were all currently sharing the same dream space. She sighed as they snored lightly and longed for the ability to help them. The foal inside her kicked and she caressed the swollen stomach, shushing gently.
Hush, my little one. You are too young for nightmares yet.
She looked back the former Crusaders and sighed.
Good luck, my little ponies.
The three teens were now in the thick of the orchard. The sun shone strong on them and warmed them comfortably.
This is really nice,
Scootaloo had to admit, stretching her wings and popping her joints.
Kinda makes me wanna...
And she was gone, blasted into the air for a bit of flying. Sweetie Belle shook her head in disapproval.
Pegasi.
Apple Bloom laughed.
Tell me about it. Rumble's always flying around showing off. It's unbearable sometimes. I wonder what it'd be like if I tried my luck with some pony a little more down to earth. So why don't you?
Apple Bloom shrugged.
Apples and Pegasus. It's just in the blood, I guess. Oh, what was the Apple family doomed to lives of ultimate happiness with stallions and mares who drift on the wind like leaves?
Sweetie Belle exaggerated her movements as she flared her hooves about like a conductor, or her mother.
Can it, drama queen?
Apple Bloom spat out between her laughs.
I ain't complaining. I'm just thinking out loud. Do you think Mac and AJ would disapprove of you dating a Pegasus? Why do you ask?
Sweetie Belle looked away.
Oh, it's just I've heard a certain pony been asking about. No!
Apple Bloom stopped her.
Snails had his chance, and you can tell him the next time he talks your ear off about me. I've been trying to get Button to stop bringing him around, but he's been tagging along and he's always been talking about you. Well, every time he does talk about me, remind him why I dumped his sorry flank in the first place.
She snorted and bucked a nearby tree. She caught the falling apple in her mouth and began to chew it whole.
Sneaking around with Diamond Tiara. You know she just did that to get back at you for kissing Featherweight that one time. For Celestia's sake, it was one kiss. One! I was trying to cheer him up after you two broke up. How was I supposed to know she'd been crushing on him for who knows how long?
Sweetie Belle used her magic to grab an apple of her own. She polished it before taking a dainty bite.
You just need to learn how to amicably end relationships like me. Just like when you and Twist broke up.
Sweetie Belle choked on her apple and spat out the chewed portion.
Ouch, that was a low blow.
Apple Bloom smiled.
Sorry. It's okay. When you two are quite finished...
Scootaloo's voice came from overhead.
There's something up ahead you gotta see.
Invisible unless you were standing directly in front of it. Up close, it wavered with barely tangled energy.
What is it?
Sweetie Belle asked.
It's a barrier between dream worlds.
Scootaloo explained.
Probably leads to mine since me and Apple Bloom's heads are close together. How do we get through it? We don't.
Scootaloo landed and looked back at the orchard from which they had come.
If we cross into my dream world, we'll be separated again. Feather Duster could attack us at any moment, so we need to stick together. How are we gonna find him?
Scootaloo saw something in the distance and her eyes widened with fear.
I don't think that's gonna be a problem.
The other two turned and looked and felt the same fear the Pegasus did. The orchard was dying before their eyes. The sun in the sky faded into a dull black circle that barely gave off any light. The lack of the sun caused the leaves to brown and fall from the branches. The apples faded, weathered, and rotted on the vine. The pleasant aroma of apples was replaced with the overwhelming stench of rot. The once plump fruit fell to the ground, joined the leaves to create a blanket of death that choked the earth. The birdsong was gone, replaced instead by a distant, ominous thunder. No, not thunder, laughter.
He's here.
Apple Bloom moaned in horror. Luna heard Apple Bloom whine and watched her face scrunch into terror.
Contact,
she whispered.
Where is he?
Sweetie Belle asked, looking around desperately. In answer, the ground beneath their hooves cracked and split apart. The three friends screamed as they were each raised onto pillars of earth high into the sky. The rest of the earth below heaved like a mare about to drop a foal and then collapsed into the abyss below. An enormous shape rose from the blackness. It shot up, up, up until its eyes were at eye level with the teens. It was coated with a patch of gray fur. Its mane was a few ragged strings of hair. The black pond-sized eyes narrowed into dark amusement and its huge mouth sneered. The gigantic beast that once been called Feather Duster laughed at them.
I don't remember him being this big.
Scootaloo squeaked.
Me neither.
Apple Bloom was violently trembling. Feather Duster laughed again.
You foolish little mares! Alone your fear was enough to draw me to you and make myself whole again. Together you've succeeded in making me stronger than I've ever been before.
His eyes focused on Sweetie Belle.
And who are you?
Who am I isn't important.
Sweetie Belle stammered.
I know who you are, Feather Duster.
The giant laughed again.
Indeed, that is a name I once had, back when I was alive in Equestria.
What do you want with us?
Apple Bloom screamed, glaring with as much defiance as she could muster.
With you, nothing. You are but a means to an end. The sin I committed against your family was enough to allow me to find you and draw power from your fear. But with you...
He focused on Scootaloo.
With you, I want everything.
Scootaloo tried not to shrink between the massive eyes.
Why me?
All you were supposed to be was a distraction, a means to an end. Instead, rescuing you gave Rainbow Dash the confidence to stop me from completing my work and getting my ultimate revenge.
Scootaloo glared.
Rainbow Dash didn't need confidence to stop you. She would have beaten you even if I had died.
This is not revenge against you, child.
The thing's smile grew wider.
This is my ultimate victory over Rainbow Dash.
What?
I've been in the dream world for 16 years, slowly gaining strength from nightmares and fear from little fillies. When Princess Luna returned, I watched her and observed how she walked between dreams and the real world. I waited and watched.
His smile grew even more wicked.
I've seen Princess Luna's dreams, you know. Not many ponies sleep during the day like she does. Watching her dreams, I knew there would soon come a time when she would cease to walk the dream world, and I would have my chance at last.
Chance for what?
Rainbow Dash destroyed my body when she set my spirit in the dream world. I have no vessel to return to Equestria on my own.
He licked his cracked lips.
But now I have yours.
Scootaloo backed away in revulsion.
You want my body?
Feather Duster nodded.
With your body, I can get close enough to Rainbow Dash and finish what I started 16 years ago. Imagine the look of betrayal in her eyes when it's her own sister that plunges a knife into her heart. No!
Scootaloo launched herself with a cry and smashed herself as hard as she could into Old Gray's head.
I won't let you!
He laughed and swatted her away with one boulder-sized hoof. She barely managed to land on her hooves back on the pillar and glared at the behemoth.
We'll stop you! Oh, really? How?
He asked mockingly.
You don't even know your purpose in life, blank flank.
His voice changed pitch and became all too familiar. His pupils shifted and became rough images of Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon.
You've been crusading for almost 10 years now. Why don't you just give up and admit you don't serve a purpose? You should just kill yourself.
Don't listen to it, Scootaloo.
Sweetie Belle screamed as she watched Scootaloo wither before the psychological assault. She saw her friend's wings folding back, covering her flank.
We're right here with you. And you.
The gray head turned to her now. The pupils changed again, and this time into rarity and spike. The voice changed into a cruel mockery of her mother's voice.
Pathetic little mistake. That's all you are. I tried to have a life after I gave you to my parents, but in the end you came back to me. All you do is hold me back. I wish you were never born.
Mommy?
Sweetie Belle whispered, her eyes pooling with tears.
Thanks, Celestia, for small favors.
The spike eye laughed.
The best part of being with Rarity is that at least I can't give her another bastard daughter like you.
Sweetie Belle slumped as her legs gave out.
I'm not a bastard.
She whispered.
Stop!
Apple Bloom cried.
Stop you hurting us. She didn't do anything to you.
The head turned to her and the eyes were now Macintosh and Applejack.
Funny you should mention that.
The thing said in Applejack's drawl.
Me and Big Mac did nothing to deserve to having to raise you. Tain't fair that we got saddled with the run of the litter.
The Macintosh image glared.
I wish you died with Ma.
Apple Bloom couldn't take it. She collapsed into the fetal position and began to rock back and forth.
Just a burden? That's all I am?
She whispered. The demon looked back upon the three broken fillies and began to laugh uproariously. His victory was near. Luna watched in horror as the three teens began to convulse and sob on the floor. Whatever was happening, they weren't winning. She closed her eyes and tried to will her astral form into the dreamscape, but everything she tried just left her drained. Desperate, she physically reached a hoof out to the girls.
I have to save them.
She thought. Her foal kicked, and a blast of energy flew from her horn and engulfed the sleeping trio. Luna's eyes rolled in the back of her head. One thought crossed her mind before blackness took her.
My magic. Something's using my magic.
Feather Duster's laughter frozen in mid-guffaw. The air itself seemed to stand perfectly still. One by one, the girls looked into the sky. The sun was gone, replaced by a stunning white half-moon. A dark shape glided towards them from the moon and drifted down until it stood before them in all its dark glory. It was a stallion, and he appeared for all intents purposes to be an alicorn. His horn was long and elegant, and he held aloft a pair of flapping wings. His fur and feathers were bluish-black, just like the sky after the sun has set. His mane was flowing, through which stars and planets could be seen carrying through the abyss. He regarded them with pity eyes.
Who are you?
Apple Bloom asked, taken by his beauty almost instantly.
Who I am is not important.
He spoke. His voice was like a whisper in a trumpet, as darkly magnificent as the rest of him.
You are stronger than this abomination.
How do you know?
Look inside yourselves. All three of you have known love, unfiltered and true. Using that, you can see past any illusion.
Scootaloo looked and saw the smiling faces of her adopted parents. She heard sweet words of encouragement and love. She saw Rainbow Dash's proud eyes as they watched her become a truly great flyer. Sweetie Belle looked and saw her mother, her beautiful, precious mother. She remembered that moment so many years ago they had found each other at last. Apple Bloom looked and saw her entire family, felt the love and pride in her. She saw little baby Scarlet, her darling niece, babble at her and reach for her with her unquestioned love and trust of a child. Finally, they saw their love for each other, how through the good and the bad times, how their friendships have never wavered, not even once. They shared a bond so few these days truly knew. Best friends. Together, they stood and looked at each other. They nodded and looked again at the mysterious alicorn. He offered the slightest of smiles, began to ascend once again.
Wait!
Scootaloo cried.
Who are you?
He spoke his name in that quiet voice. The moon wavered like a fading ripple. Both it and the alicorn were gone. Feather Duster's mocking laughter returned, but it held no fear over them this time.
Remember what Luna said,
Scootaloo remarked.
Anything you want, just make it happen.
Apple Bloom pawed at a stone beneath her hoof and grinned.
Let's try this then.
With as fierce a battle cry as she could summon, she reached back and struck the earth with all her might. An enormous apple tree burst from the pillar and impaled Feather Duster through his stomach. The look on his face was worth the nightmares he had put them through.
What?
Say hello to Scarlet, the tree a storm knocked down. My turn.
Sweetie Belle began to inhale.
You two might want to cover your ears.
Apple Bloom and Scootaloo didn't need to be told twice. Once her lungs were full, she released it all in the highest note she could possibly sing. Pebbles beneath her hooves shattered from the noise, and Feather Duster cried in agony as blood poured from his ears. His left eye actually shattered like it was made of glass. Apple Bloom looked at her friend with new astonishment.
Never heard you hit that note before.
Sweetie Belle shrugged.
Mom doesn't let me practice at home. She hates having to replace all the glasses.
Scootaloo chuckled and focused on the withering giant.
Girls, girls, girls.
She grinned.
It's a dream. The sky's the limit.
In response, the air was filled with dozens of Pegasi breaking the sound barrier at once. The 12 shapes slammed to stop inches from the 3 teens in defensive formation. Each was wearing a sky blue uniform and glared at Feather Duster with undisguised hatred. Rainbow Dash looked back at Scootaloo.
We'll take it from here, Squirt.
Scootaloo saluted. Dash returned the salute and turned to the mare floating next to her.
Ready, Firefly?
The mare who had given her life to protect Scootaloo was returned to her youthful state in Scootaloo's dream worlds. Her grin outshone her vibrant pink in her coat.
Let's get him.
As one of the dream wonderbolts blasted at Feather Duster and began buzzing about his head like a hive of angry bees. He screamed and waved his hooves about in vain attempt to swat them away, but they definitely avoided his blows. Their wings cut jagged lines in his face and began to totter backwards.
Wonderbolts!
Dash and Firefly shouted together.
Let's finish him!
Cheering in response, the squadron circled back and formed themselves into a massive arrow. As the arrow's tip, Firefly held a hoof out as though making Feather Duster with a brand.
For Scootaloo! For the Crusaders!
Came the reply, and the arrow shot forward in one lightning fast motion. They collided with the giant and pierced his chest. Feather Duster screamed and fell back into the abyss. The tree in his stomach was pulled from Apple Bloom's pillar and began to collapse. She jumped on Sweetie Belle's at the last moment and looked down into the darkness.
Is it over?
Scootaloo glided over the pillar and smiled.
Yeah, I think it is.
They laughed and embraced each other, complimenting each other on their dream weapons of choice. As they were trying to figure out how to wake up, The behemoth rose once again. Feather Duster's one remaining eye blazed with hate. The wounds from the Wonderbolt's wing had cut deep in his flesh, and his face began to fall off, revealing a black skull. A viscous green liquid poured out from his chest and stomach in wounds. He wasn't laughing anymore.
You cannot defeat me.
Each word was a choking wheeze.
I am eternal.
Apple Bloom gazed at the figure with disgust and horror.
Now what do we do?
The thing forced a smile.
Die.
He raised a hoof to finish them. Sweetie Belle pulled her friends close.
We did our best.
She whimpered. Apple Bloom squeezed the hug tighter.
At least we can say that.
Scootaloo sniffed.
We were supposed to win.
Neither Apple Bloom or Sweetie Belle had anything else to say. They held each other tighter and waited for the final crushing blow.
Friends.
Sweetie Belle whimpered.
Best friends.
Apple Bloom replied.
Best friends forever.
Scootaloo finished. The hoof came down and struck a dome of light that suddenly encased the cowering trio. The light burned Feather Duster's flesh and recoiled in pain. He stared in wonder and terror as the dome faded. The three teens were gone. There was only one now. A tall pony stood and stared at Feather Duster without a trace of fear. Her long, lithe body was covered in sunshine and yellow fur. Her wings, wider than any bird in all the world, were the same orange as the sunset. A long alabaster horn jutted from the mane of candy purple and pink. United as one, the Cutie Mark Crusaders faced the horror that haunted them all their lives in some way or another.
What is this magic?
The beast that had once been a bitter old stallion demanded. The alicorn's voice was deep and booming, a combination of the three friends' own.
This is magic far greater than any fear you could ever inspire to feed off of. This is magic older and greater than any other in Equestria. This is magic that saves souls, defeated evils greater than you, and returned harmony to the world time and time again.
The alicorn's eyes lit with godlike power.
It is the magic of friendship, Feather Duster. It is the magic that will finally finish you.
Feather Duster's one eye twitched. The alicorn released all of its ambient magic in one single blast of rainbow-colored light. The magic surrounded Feather Duster in a swirling tornado of blinding light and crackling light. The beast screamed once and then was silent. As the magic did its work, the alicorn separated into once again a flash of light. Scootaloo shook her head and smiled at the other two.
That was the coolest thing ever!
Apple Bloom could only nod in agreement.
Look!
Sweetie Belle pointed at the edge of the pillar. At last of the magic finally faded away. Feather Duster stood on shaky legs. He appeared now as he had always been in his heart. A frail, broken thing with a few ratty hairs and a patched gray coat. He stared at them with his dazed eyes filled with fear. He smiled weakly with few yellow teeth in his mouth.
Mercy,
he asked pathetically. The three mares began to approach him. He shrank beneath their gaze.
Your power's gone, old stallion. Your power here and your power over us.
Sweetie Belle pointed her horn at him dangerously.
You want mercy? Like the mercy you showed Firefly, or me, or the bulls you killed in the home?
Scootaloo growled, her wings flared, no longer needed to shield her blank flank. It was Apple Bloom who reached him first.
You begged for mercy back then? You begged my brother for mercy after you killed my parents?
Feather Duster whimpered and drew back at the very edge of the pillar. Apple Bloom looked at him dead in the eyes and smiled.
My brother gave you mercy, and so will I.
What?
Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle said together. Feather Duster sighed in relief as Apple Bloom turned her back on him.
One little problem, though,
she said over her shoulder.
What's that?
Apple Bloom closed her eyes and thought about the picture of Ma and Pa she kept in her desk.
I ain't my brother.
She reared back and bucked her legs out with all the strength she could muster. Feather Duster rippled from the impact the instant before he plummeted, screaming back into the abyss. Apple Bloom turned just in time to see him fall with the others. Together, they watched as a fiery portal opened from the darkness. A hoof shot out and shifted into a clawed hand that latched onto Feather Duster's body. He screamed even louder as a hoof claw's owner head appeared, a jet black stallion with burning red eyes. He nodded to the Crusaders, pulled the old stallion through the blazing portal, and vanished. The portal sealed, leaving only darkness behind.
What the buck was that about?
Sweetie Belle elbowed Scootaloo's ribs in response to her language. Apple Bloom shook her head.
I don't know what that thing was. It's probably a feather dust of the treatment he deserves.
Sweetie Belle fell onto her haunches.
We actually did it. We beat him.
Scootaloo tried to be subtle as she checked her flank for any mark that might have appeared. Still blank, she shrugged.
Oh well. I may not have my cutie mark for it, but that doesn't make it not true.
She put her hoof out. Two more joined hers.
Cutie must have saved the Dream Warriors!
They cried together. Once the cheering had died down, Sweetie Belle looked around at the empty landscape.
So what do we do now?
Scootaloo smiled.
Easy. We wake up.
She clopped her hoof on the ground 3 times. Luna awoke from her unconscious state at the same instant the 3 Crusaders stirred from their slumber. She stared at them apprehensively.
Welcome back. I take it you were successful?
They nodded, rubbing the sleep from their eyes. Luna sighed in relief.
Oh, soon as my son is born and I am able to dreamwalk again, I suspect I shall have some repairing to do.
The 4 ponies laughed. Luna motioned to the door.
If you like, I can arrange sleeping arrangements in the palace for you tonight.
Apple Bloom nodded.
A good night's sleep would be really nice about now.
Scootaloo shrugged.
I don't know. I'm kind of wired. I wish Pip was here so we could have some cuddle time.
Luna smiled.
That can be arranged.
She clopped her hooves together.
Student, join us.
She called. The door opened and a hooded unicorn stepped through.
Yes, Majesty?
She asked, bowing to her teacher slightly. Apple Bloom tilted her head at the familiar voice.
Trixie?
The great and powerful Trixie tossed back her hood and smiled at the trio.
Trixie approached me some time ago and requested she learn magic from me. Apparently, her last attempt to use powerful magic backfired on her. My relationship with my last apprentice went badly, so I see Trixie as a chance to fix some mistakes I made.
Luna looked at her pupil.
When do you leave for the Badlands? In the morning, Majesty.
Luna nodded and looked to the trio.
Your mates, their names?
All 3 blanched.
Mate is a strong word, Princess.
Sweetie Belle laughed nervously, her blush standing out on her white fur.
For some of us.
Apple Bloom muttered. Scootaloo glared daggers at the farmer and growled Pip's name to Trixie. Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle mentioned Button Mash and Rumble's name just before Trixie winked out of existence. Not unlike a recently ascended Alicorn princess. Sweetie Belle broke the uncomfortable silence.
So you and Pip?
Drop it!
Scootaloo muttered through clenched teeth.
Oh, it's fine. I'm not some prude who thinks you should wait. Please drop it?
A thought occurred to Sweetie Belle as she stared at Scootaloo's burning face with dawning understanding.
Oh my Celestia! Were you trying to get your cutie mark in?
She was cut off by Trixie's return with 3 very confused colts in tow. Luna glanced at the clock on the wall.
Your speed is improving.
Trixie grinned.
The praise of her teacher is all Trixie desires.
She bowed and backed out of the room. Once the door was closed, Apple Bloom looked at Luna.
You know she's just doing this.
In hopes of becoming an Alicorn princess like Twilight Sparkle. Yes, I know.
Luna finished. Rumble approached his mare friend.
Would you mind explaining why I just got whisked away from playing games in Button's basement all the way to the Knight's Goddess bedroom?
Apple Bloom laughed and kissed him. He gaped at her. I haven't heard you laugh like that in ages.
Sweetie Belle broke away from Button Mash's affection long enough to say,
It's a sleepover, silly.
That's the only explanation I'm gonna get, isn't it?
Yep.
Apple Bloom smiled and nuzzled him. Another clop of Luna's hooves brought the same Bat Pony guard as before. Luna instructed her to take her guests to the finest guest room and bid the three couples good night. Just before Scootaloo left the room, she looked back at Princess Luna.
You're full.
What about him?
Have you thought of a name?
Luna leaned back into her pillows and considered.
Not really.
Scootaloo remembered the dark and beautiful stallion who had come to them in their hour of greatest need. She remembered his voice, and as he called out his name from on high.
What about Moonshadow?
Luna thought about it.
Moonshadow.
She mused.
I like it.
But Scootaloo was already gone. The door swung shut behind her. Luna looked out the window and adjusted the moon's position. Absent-mindedly, she stroked her stomach.
Rest easy, my little prince. My little Moonshadow.
Unseen by Luna, the grand dollhouse her sister had given her shook a little, then was suddenly illuminated by a blazing light from within.